You've prayed. Not once. Not casually. Not a quick thought whispered between distractions, but with an intensity that hollowed you out. You've knelt until your knees ached on cold, unforgiving floors, or laid prostrate, face pressed into the pillow, seeking solace in the darkest corners of your room. You've begged with cracked lips, dry from unspoken pleas, and shaking hands, trembling with the weight of burdens too heavy to bear alone. You've whispered into the vast, indifferent void in the deepest, most silent hours of the night, when the world outside was asleep and only your desperation kept vigil, your eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling, body utterly still, hoping, just hoping, against all logic and reason, that somewhere, somehow, someone was truly listening to the desperate cries of your soul. You've cried, not the kind of tears that well up, briefly overflow, and then pass, leaving only a slight sting behind, but the kind that drown, a relentless deluge that washes over you, pulling you deeper into a sea of sorrow. The kind that comes from a place so profoundly deep within your being, a reservoir of pain and grief you didn't even know existed until it suddenly ruptured inside you, unleashing a torrent that seemed endless. These weren't tears of simple sadness. They were the raw, unfiltered expression of a spirit utterly broken, each drop carrying the weight of unfulfilled hopes and profound despair, leaving you gasping for air amidst the emotional deluge. You've waited, with a fragile, flickering faith that somehow, against all odds, a response would come, with a gnawing desperation that clung to you like a second skin, a desperate need for intervention. You've waited with the profound, echoing silence of someone who has exhausted every resource, offered every possible sacrifice, and has absolutely nothing left to give, yet still shows up at the door, day after day, hour after hour, driven by an instinct beyond understanding. Knocking, 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 a relentless rhythm against an unyielding barrier, each tap a testament to an unwavering, almost insane persistence in the face of absolute silence. But nothing happened. No voice descended from heaven, no thunderous pronouncement broke the stillness, no sudden, blinding light pierced through the heavy, gray clouds, parting them to reveal a divine presence. No miracle manifested itself in your reality, no sudden healing, no unexpected solution, no sign that your pleas had been heard. Just and profound, unsettling stillness that stretched on, mocking your fervent hopes. Just the shallow, rhythmic breath of your own existence, a constant reminder of your solitary presence. Just the unbearable, crushing weight of your own unanswered longing, pressing down on you with an oppressive force that threatened to flatten your very spirit. And that silence, that sacred, suffocating, cosmic silence, pregnant with absence and heavy with unspoken answers, is precisely what the profound philosopher Simone Weil, in her stark and uncompromising wisdom, called the absence of grace. She saw it not as a mere lack, but as a deliberate withdrawal, a divine void, and that, in its unyielding and desolate reality, is hell. Not the hell depicted in ancient legends and terrifying scriptures, filled with consuming fire and grotesque demons, where souls are subjected to endless, unimaginable torture. No, what she spoke of was something far more insidious, more profoundly terrifying. A God so utterly holy, so impossibly pure, that he refuses to respond to the clamor and noise of our demanding hearts. He remains silent. He holds his peace until you are utterly undone, stripped bare of every pretense, every defense, every shred of ego and self-sufficiency. This, she argued, is the hell of pure abandonment, not a rejection, but an excruciating waiting, not because God has turned his back on you, but because he is patiently, agonizingly, waiting for you to become so completely empty enough, so devoid of self-importance and preconceived notions, that you can finally receive him, truly and fully. Hell, according to Simone Weil, isn't a punitive measure, a just punishment for sins committed. It's simply the natural, inevitable state of the soul when grace has receded. It's not that grace was stolen from you, or unjustly withheld. Rather, it's because we, in our constant striving and self-absorption, have unconsciously filled every available space within our being with everything but him. With our desires, our anxieties, our fleeting pleasures, our self-made identities. And so, in an act of profound and inexplicable kindness, grace retreats, not in anger, not in a fit of divine pique, but in mercy, because only through this agonizing, unbearable absence, through this stark emptiness, can the soul finally begin to comprehend deep within its very core, how much it truly longs for the divine presence, how desperately it yearns for what it has pushed away. Hell isn't loud, a cacophony of suffering. It isn't characterized by screaming or burning flesh or the incessant gnashing of teeth. Hell is quiet, devastatingly quiet. It is the moment you wake up, perhaps in the dead of night, or in the stark clarity of dawn, look around at your life, at your accomplishments, at your relationships, and realize with a chilling certainty that you are utterly alone, not just physically isolated from others, but metaphysically, spiritually alone in the vast, indifferent cosmos. There are no comforting voices to guide you, no definitive answers to your deepest questions, no overarching purpose to anchor your existence, just the cold, desolate wind of your own solitary existence brushing against the hollow, echoing walls of your interior world, a vast empty chamber where the divine once resided. It's not the devil with his pitchfork and flames that truly torments you. It's your own self, trapped in an endless, agonizing loop of unfulfilled longing and stubborn, futile resistance to what truly is. And yet, even in the midst of this profound darkness, this chilling absence, Simone Weil, with her unwavering spiritual gaze, did not lose hope. She held fast to a radical belief that silence itself was not an end, but a form of profound invitation. The absence you felt, the void that echoed within you, was not indifference on the part of the divine. Rather, she saw it as a deliberate act of purification, a relentless stripping away of every illusion you held dear, every comforting falsehood you constructed about yourself and the world. It was a sacred surgery on the soul, precise and painful, where everything false, every layer of ego and superficiality, is meticulously peeled away, leaving you raw and exposed, until what remains, after all the dross has been removed, is a scream so utterly pure, so unadulterated by self-pity or expectation, that it transcends mere suffering and transforms into a raw, undeniable prayer. She believed that true suffering, not the minor inconveniences of daily life, not a passing sadness or fleeting disappointment, but real, crucifying affliction, the kind that breaks the spirit and shatters the body, was the only authentic pathway to entering into true intimacy with God. Because only when the ego is completely shattered, broken into a million pieces by the force of lived experience, only when pride, that stubborn fortress of self-importance, has been ground into dust, only when you have been reduced to nothing, when you have nothing left to cling to but the raw, vulnerable fact of your own breath, that fleeting spark of life, only then do you finally become genuinely capable of receiving the boundless, transformative grace that was patiently waiting for you all along, poised to enter your newly emptied vessel. But here's the crucial point. It doesn't come in the comforting, predictable way you might expect or demand. Grace isn't warmth, a cozy blanket of affirmation. Grace isn't pleasure, a fleeting sensation of bliss or joy. Grace isn't the emotional high of belief, that heady feeling of spiritual fervor. Grace, to Simone Weil, is far more radical and often excruciating. It is like ice water poured over a burning soul, a shock to the system, a jolt of cold reality. It hurts, deeply and profoundly, because it's real, unvarnished truth, not a comforting fantasy. It doesn't affirm your illusions. It ruthlessly strips you of them. It doesn't meet your petty demands or cater to your desires. It silences them with its profound truth. Grace isn't here to serve you, to make you feel good or comfortable. It's here to save you, to deliver you from the prison of your own ego. And that in its essence means destroying everything within you that stubbornly refuses to surrender to the truth of its nature. In the stark, unflinching absence of grace, you are forced to confront a mirror with no filters, no distorting lenses, no comforting excuses, and absolutely no masks behind which to hide. You are compelled to see the truth of who you are, in all its brutal clarity, not the carefully constructed version of yourself you present to others, the persona you've meticulously crafted for social approval, not even the idealized version you try so desperately to believe in your own mind, but the raw, fractured, naked core of your being, the uncomfortable truth of who you are when stripped bare, the self you've meticulously avoided confronting your entire life, running from its flaws and vulnerabilities. You see with terrifying clarity how much you've unconsciously clung to your pain, making it a perverse form of identity. You see how often, given a choice, you've instinctively chosen bitterness and resentment over the liberating act of surrender. You realize with a jolt how quickly you are to accuse God, to blame the divine for your suffering, but how agonizingly slowly you open your hands, releasing your grip on control, on expectation, on what you think you deserve. And this, Simone Weil reveals, is where hell truly begins, not in what is done to you by external forces or a punitive God, but in your own stubborn refusal to be undone, to let go, to allow the shattering that is necessary for transformation. Because grace, in its profound simplicity, cannot enter a clenched soul, a heart tightly shut by fear, pride, or a desperate need for control. Simone Weil once wrote, with a clarity that cuts to the bone, "The love of God is not the reward of virtue, it is the condition of emptiness." To receive grace, to truly welcome it into the depths of your being, you must be empty, utterly empty, brutally empty, willing to let go of everything you hold dear, every attachment, every preconceived notion, even your own desperate longing for a specific outcome, even your own will to be rescued in the way you envision. Because until you die to that very last ounce of self-control, that final vestige of your own agency, you are still, in essence, trying to manipulate God, to force His hand, to dictate the terms of your salvation. And grace, by its very nature, cannot be manipulated. It is not a bargain to be struck, a transaction to be negotiated. It is a miracle, pure and unbidden, one that only visits those souls who, through their suffering and their surrender, no longer demand it, but simply become available to it. Hell, then, isn't something God inflicts upon us. It's what we meticulously build for ourselves brick by brick when we fill the sacred void within us with the clamor and clutter of ourselves, our unwavering pride, that rigid backbone of ego, our relentless need for control, for certainty, for predictable outcomes, our endless internal noise, the incessant chatter of our minds, our ceaseless inner commentary, judging, planning, regretting, our stubborn, unyielding refusal to simply be still, to listen, to empty ourselves. Hell isn't the literal flame of eternal damnation. It is the smoke that rises from the ego as it burns but stubbornly refuses to die, clinging to its existence with a desperate, futile tenacity. It is the suffocating place where you hold on so tightly to your manufactured identity, to who you think you are, that you inadvertently suffocate your own precious soul, starving it of the divine air it needs to breathe. But even here, even in this profound, desolate absence, this spiritual wilderness, there is a flicker of hope. Because grace isn't truly distant, unreachable in some celestial realm. It is merely hidden, concealed beneath layers of our own making. It is patiently waiting, watching, listening, not to your desperate words, your fervent pleas, or your well-reasoned arguments, but to your silence. It is the softest, almost imperceptible knock, a gentle whisper that you can only discern when you finally stop speaking, when the clamor of your own voice ceases, and when you stop pleading, when your demands finally dissolve into the vast quiet, and when you finally fall utterly quiet, not out of weary despair or resignation, but out of a profound, unconditional surrender. That's when the metaphorical door, which seemed so impenetrable, so utterly closed, finally creaks open. And it doesn't come with a sudden blinding burst of light, not at first, or with a grand dramatic revelation. It comes as presence, a stillness within the stillness, a profound sense of being that fills the emptiness without overwhelming it, a hand that touches nothing physical, yet shakes your whole being to its very core, rearranging your inner landscape. It is the end of all resistance, the cessation of the futile struggle against what is. It is the beginning of redemption, a quiet, profound turning point. And in that sacred, transformative moment, hell simply disappears, not because you cleverly found an escape route, not because you fought your way out, but because you finally stopped demanding escape, stopped clinging to the illusion of control. And what remains then is grace, the kind you didn't ask for, couldn't have conceived, the kind you didn't expect, for it defied all your expectations, the kind that arrives not to reward you for your suffering, but to resurrect you, breathing new life into the very depths of your being.